Martha, thank you for your very kind introduction. You see, the wonderful thing about being the behind-the-scenes person is you get to work with amazing front-of-the-camera people like Martha Raddatz. Anything that I've been able to do and will do in the future to help reporters and anchors like Martha Raddatz do their jobs with no interference, that makes my job worthwhile. And I'm fortunate to also work with great reporters like Jonathan Karl, Pierre Thomas, David Curley, Jeff Zeleny, Jim Avila, Susan Salney, Ann Compton, all supposedly here tonight. We'll see. I can't see you. and there is no finer group of reporters in this city. And I'm so fortunate in the colleagues I've had at ABC News the last 38 years I've been there. The producers, digital journalists, managers, and some others here tonight, you know what we have done together, and it's very important work, and it's work with a purpose. We are a great team. And I particularly want to give a shout out tonight to Carrie Smith, who is ABC's Senior Vice President for Editorial Quality, our standards person. No one at ABC has been more important in the struggle to do what's right and to fight the good journalistic causes that we fight than Carrie Smith, and she's been a very good friend to me for many years. And I want to thank my husband and my two daughters, Catherine and Anna, for being here, and for always being enthusiastic and curious about the work I do. Also, it's a great honor to be on stage with these terrific award winners. Lester, I am a huge fan. And Bill Plant, you know how much I admire you and the work you've done covering the White House. We've been on many White House trips together back in the early days. And Gary and David, I'm so impressed by the work you do every day. And Chris Wallace, we go way back. We have some war stories to tell. Chris was at ABC, and we now compete against each other on Sunday mornings. Chris is an amazing, wonderful journalist and a fierce competitor. And I know that nobody comes to these black tie dinners to listen to a long speech by the behind-the-scenes person. It's okay. We're behind the scenes because we don't really want to be here. So trust me, I'm not going to talk for a long time. But there are a few important things I did want to say. And let's talk about the First Amendment a little bit and about that part that mentions freedom of the press. On Saturday, Secretary of State John Kerry addressed the journalists and guests at the annual Gridiron Dinner. Secretary Kerry said he was struck by the number of failed and failing states he sees as he now travels the world so much. And he cautioned that the worst he sees are occurring in places where there is an absence of accountability. No public dialogue, no free press. Knowledge is power, he noted, and the truth a great antidote to impunity. He remembered his wartime serving in Vietnam. He said, "We had reporters who rode with us on our boat. They didn't carry a gun, they carried a pen. And I learned that sometimes that's more powerful." And also in that Vietnam era, Justice Hugo Black wrote in an opinion, "In the First Amendment, the Founding Fathers gave the free press the protection it must have to fulfill its essential role in our democracy. The press was to serve the governed, not the governors. The government's power to censor the press was abolished so that the press would remain forever free to censor the government. The press was protected so that it could bear the secrets of government and inform the people. And now we are in this fast-moving digital age. The government's technical ability to serve as its own newspaper, network, photographer, going directly to citizens with a government-approved version of truth, has never been more possible. Just go to whitehouse.gov and take a look. They do their own newscasts, reported out by White House staff, articles, feature stories, etc. They look a lot like real news stories, and they're on the web. Washington bureau chiefs spend a lot of time these days fighting to get our own cameras and our reporters into events not only at the White House, but on campaigns and at government agencies. At some, admittedly rare, White House events, the only cameras allowed in have been government-controlled, causing many heated White House discussions with journalists and bureau chiefs. This is a fight we never give up, wanting to be the unbiased, ever-present eyes and ears of the American people. Jill Abramson and Len Downey, two of the most prominent and respected journalists of our time, have written articles or have spoken up about the excessive number of leak investigations by this administration and by the deployment of government's own media to avoid scrutiny by the press. Jill Abramson said the Obama administration is the most secretive of any administration she's covered going back to the early 80s. This is a situation deserving everyone's consideration. We're in a time in which anyone can be a broadcaster via social media, YouTube, live streaming, and the temptation for the government or for politicians to take control over their own news coverage is mighty, which raises so many other questions we face today as well. Exactly who is a journalist today? Every day brings another fight on this front. Should a blogger shooting video with a cell phone on Capitol Hill be subject to the same rules of conduct as a professional journalist, the same rules of access? Who deserves to be covered by reporter's privilege? Who would be protected by a federal shield law, should we ever get one? And who wouldn't be protected? We've talked a lot already about the AP and what they went through in the past year. And also don't forget Fox News reporter James Rosen, who was called a criminal co-conspirator under the Espionage Act of 1917 in order to gain access to his personal emails and phone records. These are troubling events, but explosive attention paid to them in the press caused the Justice Department, as we've already heard, to review policies and make some changes to pre-digital age procedures. In fact, next week, a group of journalists, some represented in this room tonight, will start regular discussions with the Attorney General about ways to continue to move forward on these issues. This is slow progress, but at least there's some movement. All of these issues require vigilance and constant attention, even as news bureaus in DC, those that actually watch the government, shrink because of the changing news business models. More challenges of this digital age. But these are good fights to have, and as Thomas Jefferson wrote, our liberty depends on the freedom of the press, and that cannot be limited without being lost. Thank you so much for this award.